Sonny Liston frightened an entire generation of heavyweight champions, but one ordinary thing terrified him: a needle. Years later, his wife would find him dead in their Las Vegas home. Toxicology found traces linked to heroin, but the coroner said it wasn't enough to kill him. Even the date of his death had to be guessed, and nobody had ever known for certain when his life began. This is the story of a man who never controlled his own story, not even after it ended. He was born Charles Liston, somewhere in the cotton fields of Arkansas, to sharecroppers named Tobe and Helen. When exactly, no one can say. He claimed 1932. The records point earlier, maybe 1930. No birth certificate for him was ever found. He grew up with almost no schooling, working the cotton under a violent father. Long before boxing taught him to hurt men, life had already taught him what hurt felt like. As a teenager, he left for St. Louis, and the city handed him the streets. By 1950, he was inside the Missouri State Penitentiary, serving 5 years for armed robbery. And there behind bars, a prison chaplain noticed what everyone else had seen only as danger, and gave that danger a direction. When Liston came out, he was free, but he was never independent. Around his career stood managers, promoters, and underworld figures who saw value in the violence he carried. Men tied to two of the most notorious names in boxing, Frankie Carbo and Blinky Palermo. In the ring, though, he was something the sport had never seen: a jab like a battering ram, a stare that unsettled men before the bell. In September 1962, he challenged the heavyweight champion of the world, Floyd Patterson. 2 minutes and 6 seconds later, Patterson was on the floor, and Sonny Liston owned the division. They fought again a year later. Same result, first round again. But the belt never bought him the one thing he wanted: acceptance. To much of America, the ex-convict champion was a villain, and the crowds that should have celebrated him never quite did. Years later, the needle he feared would sit at the center of his death. But first, boxing had to find someone brave enough to stand in front of him. Then came a 22-year-old from Louisville who did the one thing most men wouldn't. He looked at Sonny Liston and laughed. February 1964, Miami Beach. Liston was a 7-1 favorite. Almost every reporter expected Cassius Clay to be beaten, perhaps badly. Instead, Clay moved and landed and would not go away. After the 6th round, Liston stayed on his stool and did not answer the bell. His corner cited an injured left shoulder. To the crowd, it looked like something harder to name: the most feared fighter alive, letting it end. The rematch in May 1965 became one of the strangest nights in boxing. An unlikely arena in Lewiston, Maine, fewer than 2,500 people. In the first round, Clay, now Muhammad Ali, fired a short right so fast that many at ringside never saw it land. Liston went down. The count fell apart. Liston rose, the fight briefly restarted, and then the referee, former champion Jersey Joe Walcott, stopped it anyway at 2 minutes and 12 seconds. They called it the Phantom Punch. Some said the blow was real. Others said Liston took a dive. No one ever proved it, but the aura was gone. Sonny Liston didn't vanish after Ali. He went back to work. Over the next 4 years, he won most of his fights, including his very last one, against a young Chuck Wepner. But the title was gone, the aura was gone, and the world had already moved on. He was still fighting for relevance in a sport that had decided it was finished with him. And there was a private man the public never met. His wife, Geraldine, remembered someone gentle. Gentle with her, gentle with the children. To the world, he was a monster. At home, he was someone else entirely. Fear had become his public identity, and slowly, it swallowed the rest. On January 5th, 1971, Geraldine Liston opened the bedroom door of their Las Vegas home and found her husband dead. He may have been there for days. There was no witness to his final hour. Police estimated the date, December 30th, from the newspapers and milk bottles piling up outside. Even that was a guess. The coroner ruled the death natural. Lung congestion, a failing heart. Toxicology found small traces of morphine and codeine, consistent with heroin. But the coroner said not enough to kill him. Officially, the drugs did not cause his death. The Las Vegas police favored an overdose anyway. They found no evidence of a crime and closed the investigation. But for the people who knew him, One fact refused to fit. Sonny Liston was terrified of needles. Years earlier, he had reportedly abandoned a planned tour of Africa rather than take the required vaccinations. His dentist, his trainer, his priest, his wife, they all remembered the same fear. So how did traces linked to heroin end up in the body of a man who dreaded the needle? Geraldine never believed it. Some of his friends suspected murder. Decades later, an investigative journalist, Shaun Assael, argued the police themselves had planted the drugs. A mob killing, a deliberate hotshot, an accident. The theories multiplied. The proof never did. The police closed the case. The questions never closed with it. No record ever marked the beginning of Sonny Liston's life, and no answer has ever silenced the doubts at its end. A life that began with a question mark and ended with one. Subscribe to Corner View TV. Every fighter has a story, and some of them refuse to stay buried.